Come out with us and play, love your London, have a banana. In today's episode of Love Your London, we talk about the importance of reggae to the history of Tooting. We visit an amazing old cinema, a street with a unique name, the front gardens of Southcroft Road, a traditional Irish pub, a model railway shop, and not one but two blue plaques. But first, we need to tell you a bit about Tooting Broadway Station.
Hello, welcome to Tooting Broadway Station. Here we go, it's another station. This is Tooting Broadway Station. Now, there's not an awful lot we can tell you about this station, really, that we haven't told you about Tooting Beck. It's another Charles Holden. It's another Grade II-listed station. It's on the Northern Line only. Unfortunately, it's got the same problems that Tooting Beck has. As in other words, it is no step-free access and there's no toilets for anyone. In fact, this disability access is really, really bad on the Northern Line. In fact, Morden has step-free access, but you'd have to go all the way up to London Bridge, I think it is, on the Bank Line, and maybe as far as Euston on the City Line in order to find another station which has step-free access. It's really, really bad. Hopefully, obviously, there's the new stations where Battersea Power Station are. Those two have step-free access, but this has no step-free access. I'm just going to have a very quick look inside. And now, funny enough, you can take out euros here. They do have a cash machine that gives you euros. I'm not sure that is more useful around Tooting than a toilet. But anyway, just show you a little bit inside the station. As you can see, nothing really that special about it. It's just an ordinary station. But what we really want to tell you about is the statue outside. Now, this is a statue of King Edward VII. He was, of course, the son of Queen Victoria, and this was actually built here in 1911 by the people. The people funded this. A couple of episodes ago, we showed you a sewing machine that was owned by Queen Victoria's daughter, Princess Vicky. So her brother, Edward, that's him up there. He was our king. Do have to check out the bronze reliefs. This one depicts charity, but the one that's really most interesting is this one here, which depicts peace. A Roman centurion making peace with a savage, and an angel is looking over them, making sure that they don't fight. Very odd. This is either a nod to the fact that this is, of course, the Roman road of Stane Street, the Roman road that links London to Chichester, but most likely it is because they saw the Roman Empire and the British Empire as being very synonymous. So basically, it's sort of like making comparisons between. It's very kitsch, really. They're making comparisons between the British Empire and the Roman Empire. So not terribly PC, but hopefully they won't tear this one down.
They haven't pulled it down yet.
No, because it's actually a fine statue, and it's a very famous statue. Now, if you're fans of a particular TV series called Citizen Smith with Robert Lindsay, sure you remember Robert Lindsay from My Family? Citizen Smith is a really fun, it started in 1977, it's a really fun TV show, and it was about a young communist revolutionary who wanted to start the revolution here. He played the part of Wolfie, who ran the Tooting Popular Front. But it starts off with Wolfie coming out of Tooting Broadway Station, and it passes by the statue. And the statue, in the opening credits, isn't here. The statue is actually on that traffic island over there. Completely different place. They moved it here in 1994. At the end of this episode, but you do need to wait until the end of the episode, there is going to be a link to the 1977 pilot of Citizen Smith. Unfortunately, it doesn't have the opening credit because that wasn't in the pilot. That was in the first proper episode after the pilot was approved. But the pilot is called Roof Over My Head. Talking of Tooting Broadway and about war and communism and peace and the like, there is a book that you might be interested in. It's called A Long Way to Tooting Broadway. It's a long way to Tooting Broadway. It's an autobiography by a World War II British soldier called Reginald Cambridge, and he enlisted as an infantryman in the early 1940s when he was just 17. There's some really touching moments, such as his recollections of when he went AWOL when in Sicily with a friend. Well worth a read. If you buy it through them, we get a few pence. That all helps, because I mean that's one way we make money. Other ways we can make money is if you were to support us via Patreon, or you don't have to give us money at all. You can actually just share these videos. You can write about them in the YouTube comments below, because that really helps with the YouTube algorithms. And subscribe to our channel, ring that bell as well, because in that way you get a little notification when a new episode comes up. It doesn't cost you a thing. So we're now going to have a little walk down Mitcham Road in the direction where King Edward was actually facing when the statue was originally over there. We're going to walk down Mitcham Road because there's a very, very special building that we can't wait to show you. And when I say special, it's Grade I listed. Now Grade I listed, there's not very many of those buildings. Buckingham Palace and that fabulous Finsbury Health Centre that we went to a few episodes back, and obviously the Palace of Westminster and everything.
But not this.
This isn't great, no, but no.
Well, maybe one day.
Maybe one day. There are some listed red phone boxes around, but no. What we're showing you is in fact, well, it started off as a cinema. It started off as the Granada Cinema. It's the only purpose-built cinema in the entire United Kingdom to be Grade I listed. So as I said, it's up there with Westminster Abbey and the Buckingham Palace. It then became a very, very famous music venue. Rolling Stones, The Police, they all played here. Jerry Lee Lewis has played here. Jimi Hendrix has played here. Even Jimi Hendrix. Now, other kinds of people play here. They play at bingo. It's now Buzz Bingo. I think it was a Gala Bingo for a while. It's now Buzz Bingo. But no one can touch it inside because it's so amazing. Unbelievable, isn't it? The interiors were conceived by Russian stage set designer Fyodor Komisarchevsky, I think his name was. Now this mirrored corridor up here is amazing. Check this out. This is the Hall of Mirrors. Now get ready for this. Get ready for this. Okay? You open the door.
That seems like a set of coffee.
It's fine. We won't film the people. It's okay.
So, tell me
Check out this table.
so if you work with
That is arts and crafts. That's original. That's not from the 30s.
I just look at these patterns on the side. It's so theatrical. Look at this throne here. Hang on, what's it say? Commemorates the diamond anniversary of the Granada Tooting, 1931 to 1991, officially unveiled by Michael Aspel. So I'm afraid I'm going to have to speak quite a bit louder now because my external microphone has broken, or rather it's run out of battery. But we're here on Salvador. Now this street is actually called Salvador. Why is it called Salvador? There are very, very few streets in London with just one name. I mean, you've got Aldwych, you've got obviously Houndsditch, you've got Strand. Yes, it's not the Strand, it's just called Strand. But this street is called Salvador. You've got Castle Now also in Barnes. We'll be visiting Castle Now in a few episodes. When we do our Barnes episode, that'll be after we do Barking and Barking Side. But this road here is called Salvador. Yeah, so this is basically where Salvador House used to stand. Now he was a merchant of the City of London, Joseph Salvador, and he bought it in 1744, and he in fact owned loads of the lands around here. He was descended from the Sephardic Jews. His family had gone to Amsterdam to escape the Portuguese Inquisition, but then after the English Civil War of the 1640s, Oliver Cromwell said that all the Jews could return, or were welcome to come to England. So Salvador's ancestors came and moved from Amsterdam, and they moved here, and they bought Joseph Salvador, after he'd made all his money in the City of London as a merchant, bought all this land, and this is where his house was. The house was demolished in 1900, and basically it was here where this car park is. It is thought, and this Salvador, would have been the driveway. But there you go, a street with just one name. Let's move on to the next place. Hello, and I just wanted to ask, really. I mean, because obviously so many people have played here, like recorded music here. Toots and Maytals and
oh yeah, and I forgot Bob Marley.
Bob Marley.
And Gregory Isaac. I'm not sure about that. There's another one, Cliff Richard.
Do you mind if I record? What was your name?
Vicky.
Vicky, I'm Tristán. I just had to ask you, is it true that Bob Marley signed the wall?
Yeah, he did.
He signed the wall? It
was. What happened when you want to tell it? When my husband took over the place, it was upstairs. It was all written all the artists, and he had signed. And what happened? We didn't know. So the builders kind of decorated and painted. We had a lot of tapes.
And records, loads of vinyls.
What?
Still got some at home.
You still got some at home?
Yeah.
Oh wow! But there's no more. There's no. They can't remove the paintwork and see the signatures.
They
Oh.
Yeah, they took all the tapes and everything. The builders that used to work here, they took all the tapes, everything.
They took the tapes. I bet they probably knew what they were taking as well.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you very much for telling me. Because I thought it was a true story, but I wanted to make sure.
So everybody came. This used to be the studio for all the singers here, isn't it?
Yeah. Now this.
We've got the plaque outside.
I saw the plaque. Yeah.
Did you know anything about the plaque? What's happening?
I knew about the plaque. Yeah. Well, was there anything to know about it apart from?
We had an event here. It was really nice. A lot of people came out to support the plaque going up. This was in the newspaper as well. Got quite a few. His dad was the owner of the studio. This guy here, but I can't remember his name. Me and Natalie, as you can see.
Now. Yay! That's fantastic. I love that. That's brilliant. Thank you, Dee. Thank you. Got something. Thank you. All the best. Bye. Fly and Robbie. I mean, loads of people that she didn't mention. have recorded in there. Now, of course, there is another recording studio that is still here in Tooting. It's very well known and it's still here. It's called One Little Independent Records, it is most famous, of course, for the music of Björk. It used to be called One Little Indian. It used to have a potentially politically incorrect logo, which you can see on your screen. But after the death of George Floyd, someone got in touch with them and said, look, I really think that you should change the name of your company and your logo. So it became, they kept the OLI and it became One Little Independent Records. And it's now just got a fairly plain OLI. There's no little person of native First Nations ancestry on there in their logo anymore. Which is fantastic, you know. I think we should be a lot more culturally sensitive. What I think is really odd, though, is that the person who complained about it was a Crass fan. Now, if you know anything about anarchic punk rock from the 1970s, Crass, I mean, they were fiercely anti-fascist. So I get that that's maybe why the fan took this very honourable stance. But Crass themselves, their logos were so dodgy.
And do look out for when we visit One Little Independent Records in the next episode. But we have so much still to show you in this episode, so don't go anywhere.
Broadway Carpets Ltd. That's not bad, actually. Look, Sharon, all these rolls in the window, £1.
Well,
Each. Pretty good. I think it looks like they're closing down. That's probably why. Probably going to become another cafe or an estate agent.
Here was the accident.
What accident?
So, yes.
Oh, what happened?
So actually, you see the gates there? Like it was a barrier. So basically, the car just went through it. So that's why
It hit where? Hit the.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! When was this?
A month ago.
Did anyone die?
No.
Thank goodness. Okay, thank you. Wow.
There. Right across.
I see. Yeah.
And it took the whole thing. Look, that old cement came right down. Actually, that's sandstone. Sandstone.
Oh. We're learning interesting things. Just walking down the street, people stopping us.
I saw a car take out a Nero once on the King's Road.
We're just learning things all the time. This is such an educational channel.
It is.
It is. I'm not being sarcastic, it really is. We want to show you some very strange front gardens. Let's put it that way. I'm going to use the word garden very loosely. But we're going to take a little walk down this road, which is called Southcroft Road. We're going to take a little walk down here. It's about 10 minutes. Then we're going to come back. So there's a lot of walking today. But we're going to have a little check down there because we want to show you these front gardens. So as you can see, these houses have got nice little front gardens. Well, they're not doing much with them. Some of them have cars on them. Some of them have grass. Some of them have grass and cars. Some of them have grassy cars. But most of them have either got a driveway cemented over, or they've got a nice outdoor toilet. Look at that, they've got an outdoor toilet here.
And flight cases.
And flight cases, you're right. Let's have a look. Actually, it's probably someone's house. Probably someone's house, probably just can't have a look. As you can see, some people make a real little effort with their gardens. Here's a good one, look at this. Lovely roses, Sharon. Got some roses to smell.
Well, I don't want to leave in there. It's too late today.
I'll smell them for you. There we go. What I'm pointing out is that on the whole, these front gardens are being used either grass or there's gravel or they cemented over if they want to put their car on there. What am I getting on about? What am I rambling on about now? You're going to find out as we turn the next corner, the front gardens are a little bit different, and I can't work out why. I can't work out what is going on, and I would love it if in the comments you explain what on earth is going on. There's nothing wrong with this garden, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's not great. Probably could do a little bit of a tidy up. That one's alright. Again, not great, but it's a garden. Look at that, flowers. This one isn't a garden, but obviously it's used for people to drive their car, which is fair enough. We see those lovely houses over there. Some lovely houses coming up on our right. Let's check out, see what their gardens look like, their front gardens. Let's have a look, because this is like something from another world. As you can see, they're on a slope as well. Here are the front gardens. Now, they're all cemented over, but they're not for cars, because the cars, there's no driveway for the cars. They all go down. Oh, obviously it's on another level. They all go down, and it is really, I mean, such beautiful houses, but why do they have these cement gardens? It really makes no sense. I mean, when it rains, the water must pour down here, because obviously it's not going into earth. It's going to just pour right down into their family. There was a book, the Graveney. I think it's called the Graveney book over there. Not a single house has grass. Not a single house is using this to park their car. And not a single person has even put a plant pot there.
Or a toilet.
Oh, a toilet. I mean, you know, like even if there was some weird rule that because of the river down there, we're going to have a look. We're just going to have a look down here. This is the Graveney. I think this is the Graveney River or brook. We're just going to have a quick look down here. That's actually someone's private garden, but I think we can go in. Let's go in. It's sort of communal garden, but as you can see over here we have the river. Not really much of a river. And here are the backs of the houses, but it just doesn't make any sense. Why are the front of these houses all concreted over? I mean, not even a flower pot, not even a single flower pot. I mean, maybe it's something to do with if the water were to go underneath this and not roll off, that it would affect the foundations of these houses, perhaps. I don't know, but that still doesn't explain why there's not a single plant pot. So please, in the comments below, explain why these beautiful houses have got these really quite ugly and useless front gardens. And it's just these ones, because as soon as we turn the corner we see some beautiful grass. What?
Eccentric. Look at that house.
Yes.
Look at wait. We gotta go.
Let's have a look. Let's investigate. Fear as cases of pox soar. Monkey virus is spreading. No mask, no entry. To work in this house, you must wear surgical gloves at all times, please. There you go. Anyway, yeah. So as I was saying, as soon as this house ends, the gardens come back. It's confusing me. So I'd really like to know in the comments the exact reason why those houses have concrete fronts, because once this last house is gone, we get grass back again. Lovely houses actually, these. Aren't they gorgeous? They're lovely. And they've got gardens. Let's have a look inside one of their gardens. Look at that. Oh, they're coming, someone's coming. Okay, let's go. My favourites. I love Pestunier. There's a lot of gastro pubs cropping up all over the place. Pints, £6, £7. Well, actually in Tooting, they don't tend to be £7, but there are certainly some places in Balham that are £7 or very close to it for a pint. But £6.30 tends to be the normal around here. Obviously, in the last episode, we had a pleasant surprise where we went to the Secret Bar in Tooting Market and only paid £3.50 for a pint of Super Bowl, which is fantastic. There are still some old men's pubs around. I don't want to be sexist or ageist when I say that. I mean, it's just like an expression, old man's pub. This is the epitome of one such pub. This is the Ramble Inn. It's an independent pub, and they tell me that this is the place that serves the best draft Guinness in the whole of London. Now, I've tried some amazing Guinnesses in Cricklewood, in Stockwell, so I don't know. I do like my Guinness. Obviously, I've drunk quite a bit of it in Ireland as well. So I'm normally a cider drinker, but today it has to be a Guinness. I want to test to see if this really is a fantastic pint of Guinness that the reviews and the bar themselves purport it to be. So let's go and check out the Ramble Inn. Two pints of Guinness, please.
I'll drop that for Guinness. Why not?
I know, yeah, I know that, yeah. Real traditional. I mean, it's just like a lot of pubs I've been to in Dublin. All you can hear is people chatting. It's really, yeah, you can just hear lots of people talking, which is like lots of pubs I go to in Ireland. It's like you don't get it's like the only, no. There's no like loud music or anything. It's just like television and people talking. It gets something getting used to. When I went to Dublin for the first time, I was like, why is it so loud? You can hear everyone talking. But now this is very genuine. Your beer garden's open, is it? GAA and horses on the screen. What you'd expect, really. Thank you. I've got it. Cheers. Thank you very much.
That's more like it.
That's more like it, isn't it? So that was it was a little bit more than the last time I was here. Obviously it would be, prices have gone up. £8.80 for 2 pints of Guinness. I thought it would be under £8, to be honest. I imagine with the current situation that's probably pushed the prices up as everything else has gone up. Anyway, are you enjoying the day so far?
Very much so. Thank you for turning the camera on me when I was rubbing my eyes. Try that again, shall we?
No.
Please do.
It's funny, it's funny.
Well, all right.
Anyway.
This will help. It's roast beef in a glass. That's actually quite nice. That's creamy.
Now that is a good pint of Guinness.
Wow, there's no.
It feels extra cold, doesn't it? So I did ask.
They've got their taps are cold.
I did ask for normal Guinness, but it does feel extra cold. I'm not going to complain. But that is a lovely taste, and it's not bitter at all. I don't normally drink it, but when I go to a place that purports to serve a really good pint of Guinness, I will order it. That is a really nice pint of Guinness. I could easily drink 4 or 5 of them, but we haven't got time because we've got to move on. We're going to have to drink this quite quickly, actually, because we've got. Okay, we've got a lot of places to see, but yeah, I mean this is great.
Just look at that sky.
Yeah.
What's not? Oh, the swifts are out. It is summer.
Yeah, so we're here in Tooting Station. This is a national rail station. It used to be called Tooting Junction when it opened in 1894, but the junction bit was dropped, and since 1938 it's been known as just plain old Tooting. So this is Tooting Station. Not much you can really say about this. It's got 2 platforms, as you can see over there. And it's in zone 3. Yet again, there is no step-free access, and there is no toilets, not for anyone. So boo boo boo. Anyway, I think there's 2 trains an hour. You can go north as far as St Albans, and you go south as far as Sutton. But let's move on to the next place. This is Gorringe Park. It's the cinema pub. Yeah, quite a different pub to the last pub that we've just gone to. Is the Gorringe Park. I'm not actually entirely sure how you pronounce it. Probably Gorringe Park. Gorringe Park, but nothing rhymes with orange, so it can't be Gorringe. So it must be Gorringe. Let's call it Gorringe.
Alright.
But anyway, that is obviously a lot more expensive than the Ramble. It's a very interesting place. It has a cinema. At 3 PM every day they show children's films in their cinema basement, and at 7 PM they show adult movies. Not that kind of adult movies, but just films for adults in the basement. That is down there in the Gorringe. Now, quite different to the last pub that we just went to, where they only accept cash. This one only accepts cards. But they do actually take cash. According to the reviews, they do actually take cash, but they won't give you any change. So if a drink comes to like £7 and you only have a £20 note, then we better buy like another pint or so, because otherwise you lose £14. I don't know if that's true. I better... Trains. Hi, you must be Jane.
Yes.
I'm Tristan. I emailed you.
Yes.
I know you're about.
Actually wondering whether you've managed to get here.
Okay. How long have you been here?
In this building since 1992.
Wow. And before then you were in another building?
Across the road, yes. This is our
right.
41st year.
You got some electric cars. You got the Back to the Future one, I think.
Yes.
Well, yeah, I got that one. Got it when it came out. That's fantastic. Oh, lovely.
You're going all around London, are you?
Yeah, over 12 years. So we've done Acton, we've done all the Angel and Islington and everything. Yeah. We've done Alexandra Palace. We're going now sort of alphabetical order.
Oh yes.
So we're now doing obviously Balham. We're including Tooting in that, and next is Barking, and then Barnes. So quite a contrast. Yeah. But yeah. Oh, you got some Fantastic ones.
My partner Alan and Ian and Julian that work with us.
Oh, you're Alan. Hi, yeah. Nice to meet you. What's your most sort of popular model?
There isn't one.
Or your favourite? Your favourite one? Have you got a favourite one?
No, not really.
Just like them all?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it never seems to be dying out, really. I don't think.
No.
There's always going to be train enthusiasts and. I think you'll always have customers.
It's like toy touching. You got it.
Were you open during the pandemic at all, or did it like mail order?
We closed down completely for the first lockdown.
Yeah.
And the second one we did mail order and click and collect.
I bet you did quite well then, because a lot of people at home making things. Yeah.
People were very pleased when we were actually.
I bet they were.
But you know, they like to come in and browse around, which we couldn't do.
No. Oh,
And
look
even
at
when we
this.
sort of came back, we had to sort of limit
Yeah.
customers coming in and the amount of time they could spend.
Oh, wow. So, these little baby sheep and also the depot workers. Oh, I've not seen this before. Miniature vending machines. Oh, that's brilliant. Thank you. That's made my day. Thank you. Cheers.
You saved the best to last.
Brilliant. I love it. Thank you.
It's Polski.
I think we better check out Delight. This is a European food store, also known as Wędlinka. It's a Polski sklep. This is a Polish supermarket, so we have to check it out. Whoa! Oh, I think we'll order something here. Wow. Oh, I think we should get some cheese. We get some cheese.
Yes, I've been looking for this everywhere.
Is that true? What's this one?
That's one you can't have. This is the.
This is fantastic. Oh, hang on, look at this. Oh, good. Fantastic shot. Yeah, so we filmed that. Obviously, the reason why we film it is because then that way, if this channel ever makes enough money for us to live off, that's tax deductible. Yay! That little shop, because we filmed in there. So thinking ahead. Can't say that I don't think ahead. Hopefully not too far ahead. Hopefully we'll be making money soon. Just please subscribe and be our patrons, and you know, just make us popular, because we're relying on you. We're relying on you to maybe one day be a going concern like the rest of Tooting. Anyway, let's now check out. We're now on, I'm not even sure what road this is. It'll be up in the on your screen right now. But we're on the hunt. We've already seen one blue plaque in this episode. We're going to see a second blue plaque, and it's not going to be the last blue plaque we see in this episode, because it's going to be a third. So do wait until the end of the episode, or near the end of the episode. There's going to be 2 more blue plaques to talk about. Looking forward to showing you, because this first one, well, both of these people are really, really important. I mean, obviously they're important. They've got blue plaques, but they're both important in music, in completely different types of music, but they're both pioneers of their time. So onwards and upwards. Look at these interesting tiles. What a nice, interesting place. Number 156. Well, we're now going to visit someone who, while he was living here, became insanely rich. Insanely rich. Very much looking forward to showing it to you. Hang on, just...
Someone's back garden.
Someone's been.
All right.
Just recycling, it's all good. So number 46 we're going to. Here it is. It's a construction site. It's been a construction site for some time, so we can't really show you very much about it. But as you can see up there, Sir Harry Lauder, 1870 to 1950, music hall artiste, lived here from 1903 to 1911. This is going to be one of those facade jobs.
1, 2, 3.
Luxury flats. I know, it's really, really bad because very important person lived here. Not very long, from 1903 to 1911. But it was in 1911 when he became the richest entertainer in the world.
Well, we lived at our previous address for the same number of years, and we didn't become rich entertainers.
We didn't know, indeed. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Sir Harry Lauder, because he's a fascinating character. He's a Scotsman, and he was a vaudeville artiste, and what he would do would, what do you call it? He'd very much play the Scotsman. He would go on stage, yes, typecast himself. He would go on stage singing songs like Roamin' and the Gloamin' and I Love a Lassie is another one of his. And he'd wear his full Scottish Highland regalia, the kilt, the tam o' shanter, the sporran, the twisted walking stick.
His cudgel.
Yeah. And he was born in 1870. So now, by 1911, which is the year when he left this property, Lauder was the highest paid performer in the entire world. He was the first British artist to sell 1 million records. That's in 1911. And then a few years later, he actually managed to double that achievement. So you can actually say that he was the Kanye West of his day. Or you could actually say that Kanye West was the Sir Harry Lauder of his day. Because funnily enough, I mean, in case you weren't aware, Kanye West is the current highest paid musical performer in the world. But he does occasionally wear a kilt. Caused a bit of controversy for some reason, I don't know why. But maybe it was a nod to the other most paid performer in the world about a century earlier. You never know. But the sad thing is this house is under threat. They want to build in the back garden of this house and the house next door 5 3-story houses behind it. Obviously the front is protected, so I think what they're going to do is they're going to do one of those awful facadism jobs. There was a petition to try and stop it, but I don't think it's been successful, unfortunately. He probably didn't live here long enough for it to warrant being protected, but still, that happens. Hopefully they won't tear it down too much. It's going to be all another example of gentrification. I mean, people move to these places because they're cool, because they have history, and then of course they build these modern things and they take all the history away. So what's the point of that? There is going to be another blue plaque though, and the house is still standing, so thank goodness for that. We'll be there fairly shortly. A couple of things I want to show you along the way. And so we're back on the A24, Tooting High Street. Tooting High Street is what this part of the A24 is called. We've kind of done a circle. We haven't finished yet, so don't go away. Still another blue plaque to show you. There's a lot of wind here, and we're not using we're using the internal mic, so I do apologise if you can hear the wind. We're going to be showing you some very interesting places in a minute, so don't go away, don't go anywhere. But first of all, nature calls. So there is an unscripted visit to a pub called the Manor. No idea what it's like, haven't done my research, but there's only one way to find out, and we may as well have a drink while we're losing some of the previous drinks.
All right, all right.
That's nice, isn't it? Look at that.
Live music on a Friday and Saturday night.
Live music on a Friday and Saturday?
Yeah, so it got renovated a few years ago. Yeah, so
what kind of music do you have here?
Depends really who's playing. It's kind of just like, I don't know, like indie pop, things like
indie
that.
pop.
Yeah.
A pint of Aspel, £5.40 at Manor. Obviously, a lot more expensive than the Super Bock that we had in the last episode in the market. And more expensive than the Guinness that we had at that Irish pub, but £5.40, unfortunately, and this will come as a shock to some of our non-London viewers, but £5.40 is actually quite a good price these days. Can you believe it? I've been paying £6.30 regularly in central London for a pint. It is shocking, the prices these days. But I mean, I remember saying when it goes up to £5, I was going to drink something else, but everything else is more expensive, so there you go. I mean, even soft drinks are expensive, so you may as well buy something that cheers you up. Okay, so here we are at the Manor, to the Manor Born. Here's Sharon. How are the toilets? How would you rate the toilets?
8.5 out of 10.
8.5 out of 10, there you go.
There are about 9 rolls of paper in each.
9 rolls of paper
so
in each.
8.5 simply this because of the old.
There you go, fantastic. I got a VAT receipt.
Well, we've got weather coming, so let's...
We have weather, we have weather. Yeah. So we have got quite a bit to still do in this episode. It's going to be quite a long episode, I'm afraid. I hope you're still with us. It is worth staying till the end. I always would say that, no, but it is true. I'll tell you one thing that Tooting has got to offer. It's got lots of pubs. Pubs are still here. There's the Trafalgar Arms. That looks really nice. They haven't all been turned into flats, which is great. There's so many where we live, right in the centre. Well, we've now moved to Limehouse, but there as well. So many of the pubs have gone, but it's still sort of pubby around here, which is lovely. Really happy about that. Now, we were going to have some food in Little Taperia, which is a Spanish tapas bar. We don't have the time now, probably don't have the money either. And anyway, we've eaten so much today. If you remember a couple of episodes back when we were sampling all those amazing foods, that was all part of the same day of filming. So as you can imagine, no, not that far, we're going this way now. If you can imagine that we'd eaten all that food and gone to the Little Taperia as well, we'd probably be quite ill. So we would actually need a bit of recovery. And that's actually where we are right now, because this is Recovery Street. I love the name Recovery Street. It's such an interesting name, and what's most interesting about it is at the end of this little cul-de-sac is a passageway which leads into another street called Effort Street. Effort. And at the end of Effort Street is St George's Hospital. So basically, we're probably going the wrong way round. Probably if you came from the hospital, the doctors make a little bit of effort to make you feel well, and then you go for the recovery, which is where we've just come from, and then go straight into Little Taperia for some chorizo and stuff that will require you and your heart valves to need to return to St George's Hospital. Anyway, so this is Effort Street. I'm going to tell you a little bit about St George's Hospital. Now, St George's Hospital is Well, it didn't actually start here. It moved here, but it's actually a very, very old hospital. It is one of the largest teaching hospitals in Europe. It opened, well, this particular hospital opened in 1973, but its origins go back to 1733, which is when it was used to be on Hyde Park Corner. If you watch that series 24 Hours in A&E on Channel 4, it's not something I particularly watch personally, but if you do watch that, then you'll know this hospital quite well. A lot of famous people have died here. The most famous recently was, unfortunately, the actor who played Boba Fett. Boba Fett was a local resident. Here's a picture of him now. He died in 2020. He, of course, is the actor Jeremy Bulloch. And he played Boba Fett in the second and the third of the original 3 Star Wars series of the franchise. So, yes, Boba Fett. Anything you want to say?
Not at all.
Boba Fett, rest in peace. Never took off his helmet, did he?
I wouldn't have thought so.
No.
I'm not a celebrity. Get me the hell out of here. This is Effort Street, and now you know why.
Yes, Effort Street.
It's an effort. Keeping up my enthusiasm. Do carry on. There you are, Effort Street in Tooting. With a poppy next to it. Probably not one of the more interesting ones.
It's got a resident permit until next year.
Of course, but it doesn't look like it gets driven around.
Sadie Crawford, jazz pioneer. This is one of the most important British, well, she's actually British-American people in the world of jazz. It's a lovely old house, as you can see. It was actually sold last year during the pandemic for 620,000, although it's already estimated as being worth 712,000. So when you consider, though, that 20 years ago it sold for 182,000, the markup is unbelievable. That's just 12 years ago. It's just crazy how house prices have just shot up around here. But we're here really to talk about someone who lived here many years ago. Sadie Crawford, 1885 to 1965, jazz pioneer, born Louisa Marshall, and she lived here. She is the first woman to be awarded a blue plaque here in Tooting. It's really quite ridiculous that it's taken this long. 2018 she was finally awarded a plaque, and it was placed here by public subscription. She's a fascinating person, and it's really worth listening to the story, because what an amazing woman. One of the most important pioneers in jazz history here in the UK, and she was also British American, so she is this is going to be of interest to you, I promise you. One of this country's greatest and most internationally renowned jazz singers, and she was also among the very first ever white female performers to have an international career. And when I say international career, I mean really international. So as I said, she was born here in Tooting. Her dad was he did removals, like helping people move house. He was a removals man, but he died in 1889 when Sadie, or Louisa as she was known then, was not even 5 years old. Almost immediately later, her mum started a relationship with a much younger man, in fact a man 20 years her junior, and shortly afterwards in 1892 they had a child, so that would have been quite extraordinary for young Louisa. Anyway, so Louisa, when she was 11 years old, she left school, started working as a domestic servant, and then shortly after that she became a dancer at the Empire Theatre on Leicester Square, which is of course now the Empire Cinema on the north edge of Leicester Square. And it was there when at age 20 she met black American saxophonist Adolph Crawford. So unfortunately, probably not related to you. She changed her stage name to Sadie Johnson. This is before they married. Obviously, when they married, she became Sadie Crawford, hence the name up there. So they performed together as a double act. Between 1906 and 1914, they toured in Russia, Romania, all around the Balkans, Scandinavia, and of course Berlin and Paris. Paris being the place to go for jazz in Europe. Now, we are pretty sure that her dad was this white Englishman who was a removals man called Francis Thomas Marshall. But Louise, or Sadie, as we're going to now call her from now on, always identified herself as being mixed race, embracing black culture. And in interviews, she would often even make up stories that her father was Egyptian and that she herself was born in Cairo. This is an interesting bit of newspapers. This is from later on in her life. On your screen, you can see it here, where she says, where she's described as Mrs. Mosey. This is obviously a later married name. Mrs. Mosey was born in Cairo, Egypt, and reared and educated in London. It's not true. As far as we know, it's not. Well, it's definitely not true. But as you can see from the photos of her, she does. In some of the press photos of her with Adolf, she does embrace very much black culture in her look. Anyway, Sadie and Adolf married in 1918 in Southwark. That's when she became Sadie Crawford. And after 12 years together, it was then, in those post-war years, that they became true superstars, and they were invited to tour the world. And they played obviously in Paris a lot, but they also played in New Zealand, Australia, Uruguay, Argentina, Brazil, all around Central Europe, as well as the Baltic states. And she was really, I mean, she was just a huge superstar. I mean, like, you know, thinking about, I can't really think of a comparison today, the Beyonce of her day. Now, after Adolf died in Paris in 1923, Sadie moved to the United States. She sadly had a nervous breakdown there. She did eventually, in 1930, when she was 44, she hooked up and married a much younger man, so she was following in her mother's footsteps. Another black American. This was a chauffeur called Frank Mosey. And from now on she became known as Sadie Mosey, but she kind of gave up on the music. It was very sad. She gave up on her stage career. She eventually died in 1965 in Washington. So there you go. In 2018, as I said, she got this plaque. And the Streatham and Clapham High School, which is quite near the Tooting Bec Lido that we mentioned a few episodes ago, announced at that time that there would be an annual music scholarship named in her honour, the Sadie Crawford Music Scholarship. A fascinating woman, a jazz pioneer, but she wasn't from Cairo, she was from Tooting. In the next episode, we're going to be checking what lies north of Balham Station. We've done all the Balham bits towards the south. We're going to go to what is to the north, and that is the area between Balham Station and Clapham South. Clapham South is kind of still in that Balham area, so that's going to be what comes next. And so, well, until then, see you then. Bye!
Next time on Love Your London, we visit the delights of Clapham South and talk about its rich punk history. We check out this lovely pub, eat one of these, and then finish off our series on Balham by doing a couple of things that we weren't able to do while filming earlier episodes. A visit to Bjork's record label and a quick pole dancing lesson. Till next time. From Acton Town to Wimbledon, from Brixton to Beyond, love your London, have a banana.